This is a real story from real VA buyers, and I hope the lessons learned will help you in your future home buying endeavors. So we talk a lot on this channel about being very careful who it is that you choose to work with when you're purchasing a home, namely your real estate agent and your lender. It is crucial that you do your due diligence with these people before you just fall into their laps, because they are the two primary fiduciaries that will be assisting you in what is, for most of us, the single largest financial transaction of our lives. Okay? So you gotta make sure you know who you're getting in bed with. You've gotta trust them. They have to have that base of knowledge in which to help you get the best terms and situation possible. And there's got to be the right vibe. And the story I'm about to tell you is what can happen if you do get in bed with the wrong person. So these VA borrowers, it's been a few months now. They are purchasing a home. They've bought homes before, but they're not like super savvy on the entire process. So I meet them through my Facebook group. You know, I get them schooled up on the loan and all that. And they mentioned that they've already sort of made contact with an agent. I don't know how it is they found this agent or the agent found them or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So, you know, they do their shopping, they get under contract. And then, you know, during the home inspection, you know, which again is not required by the VA, but you absolutely should always get your home inspected. So during the home inspection, you know, the home inspector sees a fairly large crack in the foundation of this home. I mean, pretty large. I saw a photo of it. It was big. So, you know, during the negotiation for repairs, which the lender doesn't really stick their nose in very much, okay? It was agreed upon that a contractor would go and, you know, remediate, you know, this crack. I'm not a foundation person, so I don't know the exact verbiage or what the exact intent was. But the important thing to note is that when your agent is negotiating for repairs on a home, whether you're the buyer or the seller, you know, the number one key is to ensure that whatever person enters that home to complete work, especially on what we call health and safety items, foundations, roofs, water heaters, you know, mold, things like that, they are properly licensed and certified to do that kind of work. Now, every agent should know this. All your good ones know this. In fact, a lot of the good ones will, if they are unfamiliar with a contractor, they will go into a state database, and I believe every state has some form of this. They'll go into the state database, look up the licensure to make sure that this individual is not misrepresenting themselves. And they are properly licensed to do the work that they're being hired to do, because here's the deal, y'all. If an unlicensed person or unqualified individual gets into these homes and starts doing stuff, even if they don't mess anything up, that can lead to a lot of legal issues. I've seen agents lose their licenses over this kind of thing. And God forbid this person gets in there and screws something up. That is absolute legal action waiting to happen. So back to the story. This buyer's agent, okay, gets a contractor in there to do whatever they do to these foundation cracks. So after this work is done, again, at this point, I don't know anything about it because I don't get involved in the home inspection. Now, shortly after this, the appraiser rolls through. Now, if you don't know, you know, part of the appraiser's job is to find all the comparable homes to your home and that have been sold in usually the last 60 or 90 days in that relative vicinity, and, you know, use a bunch of metric-based information to determine the overall market value of your home. That's job number one. Job number two is they will perform a physical on-site inspection. Just looking at some high points to make sure there's nothing crazy or nothing catastrophically wrong with this home that you're about to buy. So, appraiser walking through the house, gets down into the basement or crawl space, whatever it was, and sees not only a very large crack in the foundation, but somebody had clearly been in there messing around with it very recently. I saw a photo. The appraiser will take photos, and there was like putty and all this stuff on it. You know, again, I don't know anything about foundations. So the appraiser does what appraisers will do 1000% of the time. reaches out to the agent like, hey, like foundation is clearly a health and safety situation. Tie me in with whomever was doing this work. So, gets linked in with that contractor. And of course, he's like, hey, can you please provide your licensure? So there's a bit of back and forth because right off the bat, the appraiser sees that this cat, the license number is not the kind of license number for a structural engineer or somebody qualified to be working on a foundation. Now, the entire transaction stops because we have a problem, right? We have had somebody down on that foundation that should never have been there. So then the appraiser is like, well, just send me what licensure you do have. So guy sends it over. Appraiser goes into the state database, looks it up, and sure enough, not licensed to be messing around with foundations. But even more than that, the license specifically stated not intended for home repair. Oh my God. And this is all going down 3 days prior to closing. Buyers are freaking out. They are pissed. They're like, why is my agent telling me that this is a qualified person, everything's good? You're telling me they don't even have a license. I'm not trying to have these buyers lose their shit on their agent. I'm not trying to cause that problem. So I talk them down a little bit. I get with the listing agent. She's like, hey, I actually do have a structural engineer that can go out there, like a legit one. And I'm like, okay, let me check with this appraiser to see what specific verbiage that this appraiser will need from the structural engineer stating that, yes, all is good with this foundation, nothing got screwed up, et cetera, et cetera. So we get that. We get this actual structural engineer out the day before closing to do a visual inspection. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting here praying that this other person did not screw anything up and that this entire transaction is going to fall apart. There's going to be a lawsuit. I can just see it in my mind because this has happened before. I haven't been a part of it, but I've seen it. It is a very, very real thing in real estate. So thank the gods, this structural engineer comes back. He's like, yeah, it all looks good. They did some things too. And then he types up the exact verbiage that the appraiser wants to see. We send it to the appraiser. Appraiser is like, yep, that's good. Roger that. Signs off on the appraisal. And we managed to close the deal on time. And I don't think that buyer's agent really understood how close we came to a nuclear situation. And what's really upsetting is that the person that caused this, who should have known better, the buyer's agent, blamed everybody else, specifically us and kind of the appraiser too, but specifically the lender. And it didn't really make a whole lot of sense because, her unlicensed person had already been there before the appraiser even showed up. But it was all our fault. So, I spared him a lawsuit, didn't even get a thank you, got a bunch of accusations, and so clearly this is my last time ever working with that person. But as a home buyer or a home seller, this is your lesson right here, man. Look over your agent's shoulder. And if they're bringing someone in to your home or do some significant work, and I'm not talking about, painting or maybe putting a balustrade up, but I'm talking significant health and safety stuff. Make sure those individuals are properly licensed. Because if they're not, and they get in there and screw something up, or even if they don't screw anything up, but the wrong person finds out about it, it could lead to a lot of prolonged and potentially very expensive issues. All right, this is a tale from a VA lender. I've got a lot of them. I'm going to be posting a lot of them on this page so that hopefully you can learn from it. They're all real. They're all VA buyers. They're all things I experienced firsthand. And the reason I do it is so hopefully you can learn from the mistakes of others and not put yourself in these compromising positions.